Okay, welcome to the first of solving linear equations. We're going to begin with what I'm going to call an easy example, but I don't mean by this that you should find it easy. I'm meaning by easy that it, in terms of difficulty level, this is one of the easier ones to do, and there are more complicated questions later. Okay, so what's the problem that we're going to solve? It's this one. Solve 3x minus 2 equals 2 bracket 4 minus x. Okay, now how do we solve a question like this? Okay, whenever we're solving equations, we're always trying to make them look simpler. Okay, we make it look simpler at every step. What's the first thing that we could do to make this look simple? I reckon that if we could get rid of the brackets, it would look easier. So how do you get rid of brackets? In mathematics, we use the word expand. Okay, so let's expand the brackets. And what happens? Okay, what we get is 3x minus 2. We're not doing anything to the left hand side of the equation. Now when you expand, what you do is you multiply things through. So 2 times 4 is equal to 8, and 2 times minus x is minus 2x. Okay, and now the brackets are expanded and it looks a little bit easier. Okay, but we want to make this equation look even easier, so let's try and make it look neater, look simpler. I reckon that we need to get rid of this minus 2. How do you get rid of a minus 2? Well, what you need to do is you need to plus, oops, let me write that again. You need to plus 2 to both sides of the equation. Okay? And what we get is the following. 3x, when you add 2 to the left hand side here, minus 2 plus 2 will cancel, so all that we've got left is 3x. When you add 2 to the right hand side, 8 plus 2 will just equal 10, and we'll get 10 minus 2x. Okay, that looks even easier now, doesn't it? It's looking simpler and simpler. How can we make it look even more simple? Well, let's try to get rid of this minus 2x. How are we going to get rid of a minus 2x? Well, let's do the opposite. Let's add 2x to both sides. Okay, and see what we get. If you do 3x plus 2x, you of course get 5x. If you add 2x to the right hand side, it will cancel the minus 2x, so all you're left with is 10. Okay, so it's looking even more simple. With every step it looks even more simple. Clearly there's one more step to go, because we've got this 5 hanging around. Now just before we get rid of it, this 5 has a particular name. It's called the coefficient. Okay, you might come across this word, you know, in your maths textbooks and stuff. Don't get daunted by maths language. If you see the word coefficient, it just means the number that multiplies. Okay, so 5 is the coefficient of x because it's the number that multiplies by x. Alright, now it just saves us saying the number that multiplies by x. So if we need to get rid of this 5, and the 5 is multiplying by x, then what we should do to both sides is, in this final step, we should divide both sides by 5. Okay, and what do we get? Well, 5x divided by 5 will be equal to 10 divided by 5. So you cancel those 5s. Cancel 5 is a common factor of that fraction on the left hand side, and you're left with x, and 10 divided by 5 is of course 2, and that's your answer. You can't make it any simpler. That's your answer. Okay, let me say two things before we finish. The first is all of this stuff here on the right hand side. Do we need to write this stuff when we're doing questions? No, you don't need to write it, but it's important to write it at least once now so that you understand it, okay? Every step that we do in algebra, you're doing something, and you should be able to say what you're doing. Okay, that'll make it much more solid when you're doing it. And the other thing is what I guess I call the golden rule of algebra, and I'll try and write it down here. It's whatever you do to one side of an equation, you must do to the other side of the equation. Okay, so whatever you do to one side of an equation, you must also do to another side of the equation. That's what we're meaning with all the instructions on the right hand side. So that's what we're doing with here. Okay, you actually can never make a mistake as long as you remember that rule, that whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other side. If you do that, you'll never make a mistake. I mean, sometimes you might not get towards the answer, but you won't actually be wrong. Okay, so if you know that golden rule of algebra, then you'll always be correct. All right.